Former President Donald Trump is on Long Island tonight. He is hosting his first campaign rally since the second apparent assassination attempt on his life. Law enforcement says security will be extraordinarily tight for the event. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's leadership conference in Washington today. Her address is in observance of National Hispanic Heritage Month. Our Nikole Killion is on New York's Long Island with former President Trump, while Navarro is covering the campaign for the Harris campaign. But we start with Ling and the Federal Reserve's first interest rate cut in more than 4 years. The Fed today cutting interest rates by half of a percentage point. Joe, so great to see you. You had a really important exchange with Chairman Powell today, and I want to play that for our viewers first.
What message are you trying to send American consumers, the American people, with this unusually large rate cut?
I would just say that, the U.S. economy is in a good place, and our decision today is designed to keep it there. More specifically, the economy is growing at a solid pace. Inflation is coming down closer to our 2% objective over time. And the labor market is still in solid shape.
And Ling, I feel like we've been talking about and anticipating this day for so long. So what signs in the economy brought us here? Why now?
Well, essentially, inflation last month was 2.5%. It's down from that over 9% that we saw a couple of years ago. So the Fed feels like its job is not mission accomplished yet, but Fed Chair Powell saying that they feel so much more confident in where inflation is as it moves more meaningfully to that 2% target that we've been talking about ad nauseum. They also see that the labor market is changing. And so part of the reason you see this half-point rate cut is now they believe their mission is not only just fighting inflation, but it's also maintaining the health of the labor market, giving small businesses a reason to reinvest in their companies again, spend some more money, bring those borrowing costs down a little bit.
And what does this mean for most Americans? I know everyone wants to know, when will I start feeling some relief somewhere?
I think we were talking about maybe refinancing, right?
And we were talking about, should I go shopping? What should I buy?
Yeah, what should I be looking at? Well, I actually have some new numbers from Bankrate on this front. Now, here's the deal. This kind of half-point rate cut, it takes a couple of billing cycles, so to speak, to hit. It's not like it's going to hit your mortgage rates tomorrow. Mortgage rates already coming down pretty significantly and usually move ahead of an interest rate cut. But when we look at what's happening, you can see credit card debt. This half-point rate cut, according to Bankrate, means just $2 off a monthly interest rate payment for a $5,000 balance if you're carrying that. And if you look at a new $35,000 auto loan, for example, you're going to take $8 off a month. So it's pretty insignificant for those bigger ticket purchases. But when you look at something like a HELOC, a home equity line, this would mean on a $50,000 HELOC, you'd get $21 off a month. So there is a little bit of meaningful movement that will be coming. But more importantly, this cut kicks off another cut or two come November, December. That might be an additional half point. Then that's probably when you should probably be thinking about refinancing or getting back into the home auto market.
Every bit counts.
Every bit counts, absolutely.
So some Republicans are agreeing with the move, but we know that former President Trump has said that lowering rates is, quote, something that they know they shouldn't be doing so close to an election.
Yes.
Are politics at play here?
I have asked Fed Chair Powell this twice before. He was asked about it again today, twice. And he says that politics do not play into the open market committee's decisions. And he says that their job is to serve the American people, to keep the U.S. economy in balance, and that he does not believe that a central bank should be influenced by head of state, by the White House. And he gave some interesting historical context around that, around the globe. So that's what he says, but certainly we're, 48 days away from the election, right? And so that politics question certainly a big factor in all of this.
And the White House insists that it is independent from the Fed every time we ask that as well.
Exactly.
So, thank you so much, Ling.
Thanks.
Turning now to the campaign trail and our Nikole Killion and Navarro. Nikole, Trump is holding a rally on New York's Long Island tonight. You are there, and we know that security is expected to be tighter. Have you observed any of that, given that you have been to plenty of rallies before? And what are law enforcement officials telling you?
Well, we know, according to our CBS News reporting, that the former president is now receiving some of the highest levels of security possible, pretty much on par with what a sitting U.S. president would receive in terms of counter-sniper teams and counter-surveillance teams and the likes. Being here at this rally in Long Island, we have seen a noticeable law enforcement presence. We've seen law enforcement on horseback, K-9 teams. We've seen some other law enforcement officials conducting surveillance in the area. And I talked to a number of rally goers about how they feel about that level of security. Take a listen.
No concerns about safety. Listen, we're all here. We're all here to support our guy. You can see the energy here. You can see the excitement here. You can see how we all support someone who's going to make the country great again. We got to turn out to support him. We got to turn out to let him know that no matter what happens, we're standing behind him. We're all encouraging him.
A lot of friends and family were spooked, but I'm a diehard. I think he's done good for the country.
So at least for those two attendees, they are undeterred. They feel that they want to be here in support of the former president. They feel that if he can continue to come out and hold rallies like this, they can also do.
And Nikole, New York is a Democratic stronghold. He could be in one of several battleground states. So why is he there tonight, and what do you expect we will hear from Trump?
Considering it is a deep blue state, but it's worth pointing out a couple of things. One, technically, you may recall in that so-called hush money payments case, the former president was due to be sentenced today. That got pushed back to November, but, that was something that formally was on the schedule. The other thing is that, parts of Long Island are very competitive in terms of down-ballot races. This district, we're in the 4th Congressional District, is very tight right now in terms of Congressman Diaz-Bazito, who's in a very competitive race with his Democratic opponent. So some people I talk to say they feel it's good that the former president is here to kind of lend some of these candidates an extra boost because they are concerned about the balance of power in Congress.
Nikole, thank you so much for your time and reporting. And now Aaron Navarro joins us. He has been covering the Harris campaign. Aaron, great to see you. Today, we heard the vice president speak at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's leadership conference. Here's what she had to say on the southern border.
We must also reform our broken immigration system and protect our dreamers and understand we can do both. Create an earned pathway to citizenship and ensure our border is secure. We can do both, and we must do both.
And that appearance is tied to National Hispanic Heritage Month. We know that the campaign has been flooding the airwaves in battleground states to try to reach more Latino voters. Can you talk about this voting bloc and how essential it is to her campaign?
This was a voting bloc that while President Biden was still in the race, it was an open question on if they would stick with the Democratic Party, and if so, what those numbers would look like. Since then, we've seen some momentum with Harris at the top of the ticket from Hispanic voters, from black voters towards her, but they still need to shore up and make sure she retains that support. And that's in part why they're going to have Governor Walz in Allentown, Pennsylvania, a heavy Latino community in a crucial swing state later this weekend, campaigning to show that they are looking to invest time and money in courting this vote. And I would also note I was at the CHCI event earlier today, and Harris had some new language talking about Trump's plan for mass deportations of undocumented migrants. She said, quote, "How is that going to happen? Massive raids, massive detention camps. What are they talking about?" So you're seeing some new criticism from her on this issue of immigration.
I want to turn now to some big news of the day, which is the Teamsters announcing that they won't make a presidential endorsement. I think the last time that happened was 1996. And this comes right after a substantial meeting between the vice president and the Teamsters, the president of that union calling it a job interview. So what does it say that they aren't endorsing anyone? Is it a blow to the vice president? And I know you have some information about internal polling as well.
Well, it's certainly recognition of that internal polling. The Teamsters statement that they put out said that neither candidate agreed to some specific things they wanted pledges on when it comes to labor relations. They did criticize Trump for not pledging to veto a right-to-work act if that got to his desk. But some polling of rank-and-file members that they conducted from the time that President Biden stepped down up until their meeting with Vice President Harris on Monday showed a heavy lean towards former President Trump, about 58% in that poll. And that was sent to rank-and-file members through a QR code done virtually. The Teamsters also said they did a similar type of poll, rank-and-file members this week, through the phone that had similar numbers, people saying that they support former President Trump. And in the wake of this kind of no endorsement decision from the Teamsters, you're starting to see some local Teamsters in battleground states such as Nevada and Michigan come out and say that they endorse Vice President Harris. This has been a contentious issue for the Teamsters. 1 million members, Sean O'Brien often says it's a pretty diverse group, and they made their decision today to not endorse.
All right, Aaron, and those members will have their final word on Election Day. Really appreciate your time. And a quick programming note, join us early on October 1st at 4 p.m. Eastern for a special vice presidential debate edition of America Decides, live from New York City. CBS News will moderate the debate and bring you coverage all evening long.